Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by The Art of Education, and I'm your host, Tim Bogatz. It's theme week here at The Art of Ed, and articles this week are all about substitute teachers. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We've got articles that published yesterday about using Snapchat to make subplans and how to really get the lowdown about what happened when you're gone. We've also got articles on turning sub days into an advocacy tool and some other great advice that's coming throughout the week. And I'm pretty excited because I wrote my first article in a while, and it's publishing today. It's all about some of the worst art subs that you've ever seen, and trust me, it is entertaining. Live snails, first graders playing with giant paper cutters, and copious amounts of armpit sweat all make an appearance in the article. So yeah, just make sure you check that out as well. And of course, Art Ed Radio wants to get in on the action, so Andrew will be here in just a minute so we can talk about all things substitute related. We're going to chat about that guilt you feel when you have to be gone, what you can do to make sure your students keep functioning, and how to set your subs up for success. It's going to be a good talk. Before we get into the interview, though, I need to tell you that you can now get a 30-day free trial of Art Ed Pro. You've heard me talk about it on the podcast before, but Pro is AOE's brand new premium personalized learning system, which we have designed exclusively for art teachers. It has hundreds of high-quality hands-on tutorials, premium downloadable resources, and expert art room trainings. You know, at this point in the year, when you are first starting things out, you need quality instructional handouts. You need new ideas for curriculum and assessment. And this is when you need them the most. We've assembled all of the best practice resources and videos in one spot, and you can sign up and get full access to the entire library in less than 2 minutes. Go to Art Ed Pro to get started on your 30-day free trial. But now it is time to bring on my partner in crime, Mr. Andrew McCormick. Let's get this sub talk started. All right, Andrew, how are you?
I am doing great, man. I'm getting back into the swing of things with the new school year. So I've got a week or two under my belt, and things are moving right along.
All right. I'm glad to hear it. We need to talk about substitute teachers, and I'm just going to dive right in with, I don't know, maybe the most important question. Do you feel guilty ever about being gone for a day? And do you think teachers should feel guilty if or when they need to be gone?
I don't want to answer the second part of that because I don't want to sit here and tell other teachers what they should think because everyone's pretty unique and different. But I do not like to be gone. I always tell my students, pretty early on in the year, like, listen, I refuse to get sick. It is just not in my DNA. I will save all my sickness germs for like spring break. That always happens to me. It's like, hey, Thanksgiving break. And then my body just goes into like, okay, we're going to make up for lost time and really get sick. But I always tell my students, like, if I am going to miss, I guarantee you it's because I have a sick kid. Like I won't get sick and I'm not going to take, a day off. I feel guilty every single time I'm gone. Like I just do. I don't like it. I don't like, sort of the, break in the routine that it causes for me and my students. So I try to avoid it at all costs.
Yeah, and, you may be kind of afraid to take a stand here, but I'll do it. And I'm going to tell teachers that they don't need to feel guilty for being gone. Like, I always used to feel guilty. And then I don't know what actually got me over it, but then I realized, like, you know what? I have a life too. And some days, I'm sick and I need to take care of myself. And there's nothing wrong with, calling in a sub. But as you mentioned, it is a pain like no other. So, just like you said, the interruption, the difficulty of that, just the logistics. So, my question to follow up with that is, have you ever gone to school, when know you shouldn't have. You're so sick, but you go anyway just because it's easier than dealing with a sub?
Oh yeah. So especially as a new teacher, like I think now that I've had a little bit more experience, like if I'm really sick, like I do try to think of like, I don't want to get everyone else sick and my students sick and fellow teachers sick. So if I really feel sick, like I'm going to stay home. But like if I'm just like, I've got a little bit of a head cold, kind of a funk, like I'm going to try to soldier through. But I remember 2 times when I was new to teaching, there was one time, like I used to think that the expression like a fever breaking was kind of like just this thing that old people said. I didn't know that was a real thing.
Yeah.
And I was teaching 3rd graders at the time. And I just felt awful, and I'm demonstrating and I'm just like sweating profusely, like literally sweat is dripping off of my forehead and like onto this like painting or drawing I'm showing off. And I stood up and I felt a little dizzy. And then it was like 10 minutes later, it's like, oh, I feel better. I was like, I think my fever broke. I probably had like 102 fever or something. And like, I don't know what the heck I was thinking being at school that day. And I had another one of those where I think like a year later, I was working actually at the high school doing set design for like the Wizard of Oz. And we had like 1 week left to do it. And I was just like, if I don't work on this with my class, and I promised the theater teacher we were going to get this done, I'm going to be screwing over all these theater kids. And I felt so miserable. I told my kids, I was like, hey, I'm just going to be in the theater. Come down when class starts because I'm going to be sitting there. I had actually fallen asleep. I was so sick. And like my kids, like, they woke me up and like, hey. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't feel very good. And I think the next day, like we got it done. And the next day I was like, I'm staying home sick. So yeah, I've done some kind of stupid stuff because I didn't feel confident in like my substitute game.
Yeah, for sure. And actually that's the perfect segue for me. So, let's talk about that. Like when you do have to be gone or when you choose to be gone, what do you do to kind of set your substitutes up for success? Like how do you plan ahead? What do you do logistically to make sure that it's not chaos in your room when you're gone?
Sure. So like I'd actually say I'm gone every once in a while for like conferences, or we would even have in our at my previous job, we'd have like all day building leadership team meetings. So like I was technically like still in the district and like working, but I was off site. So if I knew about those, like I would go in the night before, like hang out with my kids at night, but like as they'd go to bed, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to school and like, number one, I'm going to clean really well. So like stuff is super organized. Like,
so you're not embarrassed when the sub comes in?
Well, to some degree, it's like, yeah, I don't want to be embarrassed, but like, I also want them to understand like, oh, here is logically where stuff is. Like it's all kind of clearly laid out versus like inheriting sort of like the system that like only my students and I, or like maybe even only I understood. So I really did try to like tidy up, put things away, make sure the desk is pretty clean. And it's not just like an embarrassment thing. It's like so that they can find stuff more easily. I'd make sure I'd have a roster with like students' pictures. So it wasn't just like their names, but like they could also see pictures. I'd always write really extensive notes. And that's why I think people don't like being gone. It's like, dude, I'm working 3 hours sometimes to be gone for a day. That's just a pain in the butt, like I'd rather just muster through and like get through it. But, yeah, I try to be as thorough as possible, with my note taking. I think that helps quite a bit. And I actually had a tip from a teacher I work with. She said something. I was like, I don't know why I never thought of that. So, like when you're a teacher, you get all these IEPs and 504s and health concerns and all that stuff. She's like, I put all that stuff in my subfolder. And I've never done that before. And I actually felt like kind of stupid and kind of embarrassed that I've always had subfolders, with fire evacuation plans and tornado drills and who to call and what to call. But I never actually had like, hey, this kid might have a seizure. And like, here's what you should and shouldn't do if that happens. And we have all this stuff as teachers, and it's just like making that clear. Now, my immediate reaction after I'd kind of gotten over how shocked I was like, is that legal? Like, can I share like IEP and 504 and health stuff with a substitute teacher? Because I mean, there's like privacy concerns and stuff like that. And she's like, no, like, of course, like they're hired by the district, and part of being hired by the district, even as a substitute, is like, I mean, the safety and well-being of your kids. Like, they need to know a lot of this stuff. So I've started doing that this year. It's kind of a slow process, but I don't plan on being sick anytime soon. So hopefully I can get my sub folder in order before I need a sub.
Yeah, and I think it's worthwhile to do that kind of stuff, and especially if you can just put it into your subnotes where it just stays and you don't have to redo that every time. I think that's worthwhile. And just one kind of simplified thing that I do is just with each class, I will make a note that says students who can help. And so if the sub has a question, needs something run to the office, like, these are the trustworthy kids that you can ask about this stuff. And then I leave a little note on students you should watch, like, this person talks way too much. This person's always out of their seat. This person punched a kid last week, whatever the case may be. Just here's who you may want to keep an eye on. And, I've had subs tell me that they really appreciate that, just, on both ends of the spectrum, because that really helps them out. But so there's my big takeaway for the episode, I think. But let me ask you, beyond just getting everything prepped for the sub, how much do you tell your kids, like, if you have to be gone to one of those all-day leadership things, or that you have a sick kid that you're going to have to take to the doctor tomorrow, like, how much do you prep your students? How much do you, set them up to have success when you're not there?
Yeah, I really think it's important to be as upfront and clear with them that that's a possibility that you're going to have a sub, whether you have a hunch or it's a for sure thing. And I just let them know, like, hey, I'm going to be gone tomorrow and I'm going to have a sub. And every single time, the student's immediate question is, who's it going to be? And my answer every single time is, I don't care. I don't know, and I don't care. This person walking through the door tomorrow, they could be King Kong or Mary Poppins. I don't care. You're going to be respectful and nice to them, and I'm going to hear nothing but good things, like, when I come back. And I think that has worked well, that students actually, after a couple years, stopped asking me, because they just kind of knew, like, hey, it doesn't matter if it's our favorite sub or someone we can't stand. Mr. McCormick is going to want us to have a productive day, a respectful day. And they want to know if this teacher is going to let them get away with murder or be really strict. And it's just like, it does not matter to me. Like, you're going to be productive. I actually want to backpedal a little bit. Something I started doing a couple years ago and I really liked, and I'm hoping to get there soon again, is if I knew I was going to be gone, I would actually shoot like a screencast video and then upload that to our school's LMS, learning management system, which was Schoology at the time. And it was just like a 10-minute video of, hey guys, sorry I'm gone today. I told you yesterday, here's what I really want you to work on. And, remember this, don't do this. So when I come back tomorrow, I want to see this. And it was great. I mean, it took some time to record this, but then my subnotes literally looked like, have them watch the movie on their Schoology, and it was just like, done. And now at my new school, they're doing this thing, and I forget the fancy word for it, but it's like autonomous substitutes or something like that, where if you know that your students, and again, this is high school and it's only 10th through 12th graders, can work on something like content specific that you have for them, and they don't need a sub, they can actually go to a study hall that's like mildly supervised. So like a study hall in a commons area that has like 40 or 50 students and one supervisor, and just work on stuff. And then the district doesn't actually even have to like pay for a sub, because they can just go to this commons area and kind of work what they want to work on. I was like, that's a brilliant idea. I have not yet kind of had to do that, but I'm kind of curious to see how that'll work down the road.
Oh, I'm not sure that I'm sold on that idea. I feel like that kind of devalues what we're doing. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about this.
Okay, but listen. So if you knew that, like, so I'm going to take my own case, for example. If I have a graphic design class, and I know, because sometimes my notes will look as simple as this. Hey, it's a work day. we're halfway through a project. All the students know where their materials are. All the students know what they're supposed to do. So I don't elaborate that much on a process or an idea that the substitute needs to like model or remind them of. Like, I'm going to trust that at the time, my 8th and 9th grade students had like autonomy to kind of just keep plugging away and keep working. There's been times where I'm like, man, that was a really easy job for that sub, because all they had to do was just like take attendance and make sure no one stabbed anyone, you know, like, cause like the what the students were supposed to be doing, they had it under control. So, you know, I think if there was a class, a drawing class, a painting class, a graphic design class, and they just knew what they had to work on and they could do it in like a commons area, why would you pay for a sub to come in and just like read a book in front of them because they didn't have anything to do? You could have like this big study hall supervisor watch 50, 60 kids, and as long as they're all being like behaved and on task, like it's all good, you know?
Okay, I'm still not sold, but I don't want to get derailed. So we're gonna turn this back to my pre-written interview question. But no, I want to talk about your kind of the best subs that you have. So I guess question, like, if you've ever had a dream substitute, like somebody who you just want to have back in your room all the time, like what do they do? Like what do they do to be successful? And then part 2 of that is, you know, do you have any little hacks or any little workarounds to make sure that person gets back to your room repeatedly?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a good one. I can answer that one without getting too far off course here. We always use an online registration, you know, format called ASOP, and you just like go in and say why you're gone.
Yes.
And you can actually have your like top 5 people, and you can actually like move your top person to be the number 1 person. So if you get sick or are gone, they like, I don't know how it works. If the system like shoots them an email or a text message or a phone call first, but it does seem like you can kind of set up your preferences so like that person kind of has a first crack at it sort of thing. That's been really good. And one of the ways I can answer this question is to also flip it in a second on like the worst substitutes, because
yes,
you can also tell your principal like, hey, that person should never substitute for me ever again. In fact, you might want to actually think about if they should work in this entire building, because like that was really horrible and that was not good at all. But I can actually, when it comes to favorite subs, I can actually give a shout out to Craig DeBerg, Mr. DeBerg. He was the best. My kids loved him. You know, I told you kids would always ask, who's our sub going to be? If I knew it was Mr. DeBerg, I would always say, it's Mr. DeBerg, because they were so excited. Now, here's the funny thing. Mr. DeBerg did not have an art background at all. He was an older, retired school counselor, actually. And here's the funny thing. Some of the worst substitutes I've ever had were people who wanted to be art teachers and had an art education degree. And I don't know if that's like, if I'm an anomaly, but I think that there's some teachers out there in that sub pool who are like disgruntled, angry people who have not gotten a job yet. And when they get into the classroom that they wanted, they're like, oh, this person doesn't know anything. I'm going to throw their lesson plans out the window and we're going to do a whole new lesson plan. I had a sub. She threw away my lesson plans. I had it really well laid out, did this whole other like weird thing. And then the students were all telling me, hey, she was talking smack about you all class period long, saying you didn't know what you were doing, that your lesson plans were stupid. It's just like, well, that person doesn't need to work in this building ever again, because that's just not even professional, you know?
I feel like that happens far too often. And, you know, I don't want to be too cynical or too negative, but a lot of time, like, you know, there's a reason these, you know, this person may not have a job. So, yeah.
Hey, I can be as negative and cynical for the both of us. And I feel the same thing every time I have a sub that just completely blows it up and just kind of screws it up. And it's like, man, I worked really hard to make sure that there would be a smooth like continuation of what we're doing, and you just blew that out of the water. That was nuts.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. So, all right, let's go ahead and wrap this up, though. So, why don't you give us, your 3 best ideas or 3 best practices on making subs successful in your classroom?
Well, I kind of said a couple of them. I like the roster with photos on it. I think that's really helpful. I like the IEPs in the folder. And then my go-to, I know sometimes they'll, you kind of mention it, list your most helpful kids, list maybe the kids to look out for. There's actually a part of that I've tried not to do because it kind of goes against my DNA as a teacher. I understand how in the short term it's efficient, right? But I never wanted to be that teacher who started off the school year going to other teachers and say like, hey, give me all the dirt on all the horrible kids you had last year, because then I feel like that starts to paint your own relationship with that student. And I don't want to tell a sub, hey, look out for this kid. He's a real piece of work. And now they're on edge, because I've had kids that were tough for me and gave me all sorts of opportunities to become a better teacher. That's a positive way to say it. And I'm worried about them. And then I'll ask the class, like, hey, how was Tyler yesterday? Oh, he was good. And they're kind of shocked. And it's like, well, I'm glad then that I didn't tell that sub, like, to look out for this kid. So I don't do that. But here's what I do in my lesson plans or my sub plans. I always tell them a teacher to go talk to. And I've been fortunate that I work right next to a teacher. Like, if you have any questions, Mrs. Black is right next door. Mrs. Cardamone's right next door. And it doesn't even have to be an art teacher. It can be a science teacher right across the hallway who can help out. So I think that helps set them up for success.
Yeah, I like those ideas quite a bit. And, I think I'm the same way. But my idea is just, if I don't want to talk badly about kids either, but I do want to give subs the most information they can, like give them an honest assessment of what they're going to be dealing with. So yeah, I think if my top 3 would be, number 1, make sure you prep your kids, and just let them know, here's what I expect from you. Here's what's going to be happening with the sub. Number 2, make sure that, they have something specific that they need to be working on and the sub knows it. And so make sure your lesson plans are well laid out, even if you're just having a studio day or whatnot, lay out, this is what I told the kids they need to be doing. These are my expectations, just so everybody's on the same page. And then, number 3, just give them as much information as possible with seating charts, pictures, IAPs, who to trust, who to go to for questions, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's going to make things run as smoothly as possible. So cool. All right. Well, we've talked a long time. I think it's time for us to wrap it up. But Andrew, thank you very much for joining me.
Hey, my pleasure, man. We'll talk to you later.
We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was a long talk, especially with a couple detours in the conversation that I'm going to blame on Andrew. So I will wrap it up quickly here. I hope that the last 20 minutes has given you some good ideas and some good advice on what you can do to make your life a little less hectic when you have to be gone. Because when things are running smoothly in your classroom, you can worry less. Your kids can be more successful, your subs can be more successful, and you don't have to feel any guilt about being gone from your classroom. Art Ed Radio is produced by The Art of Education with audio engineering from Michael Crocker. Remember that you can sign up for our email list at artedradio.com, and make sure you check out Theme Week about subs on The Art of Ed. My article is published today, so make sure you read that. And also, most importantly, make sure you sign up for your 30-day free trial of Pro at artedpro.com. Thanks for listening.